Hi, I'm Assam, the lecturer here at the Institute of Medical Education, and today we're going to take a look at solutions to Section 3 of ACER's GAMSAT Pink Booklet, Practice Test 3, specifically Unit 35, questions 99 to 102. And in this unit, we're going to take a look at polypeptide hormones and the different types of polypeptide hormones, and how we can break apart or cleave these polypeptide hormones in the lab using enzymes such as trypsin and chymotrypsin. Now, you probably noticed this is a very, I guess, long stimulus. I mean, it looks long because they've got a massive table in there. A lot of the information they provide is pretty much useless. This unit is actually a fun game. So you have to employ pattern recognition here to answer the questions. When I saw this unit, I was like, "Oh, this is fun. This is something I'd enjoy doing in a GAMSAT because it's like a little puzzle." So what we really need to know, if you do have a quick glance at the questions, you really only need to know the orders of the amino acids for argipressin and cephalotocin, and you only really need to know pretty much the enzymes trypsin and chymotrypsin and what they cleave. So we're told that trypsin cleaves the carboxylic acid facing lysine and arginine amino acids. So the bond's there, but not when proline is followed. So we'll get to why that's important. And chymotrypsin, it just cleaves the carboxylic acid facing tyrosine, tryptophan, and phenylalanine. So that's all you really need to know. I honestly just summarized that whole page and a bit of the information into a couple of lines. All you need to know. So if we dive into question 99, it says the cleavage of which of the four nanopeptides, so argipressin, oxytocin, octopressin, and cephalotocin, is facilitated by the enzyme trypsin. So straight away, we've got our trypsin here, so we know that it's going to cleave lysine, arginine, but not when it's followed by proline. Now, so if we take a look at the four nanopeptides which have been provided, so the polypeptide hormones, we see that straight away oxytocin and octopressin don't contain lysine or arginine. So if you just take a quick glance, no lysine or arginine. So we know straight away for question 99, the answer can't be D and the answer can't be C. So it's going to be A or B. So it's going to be between argipressin and cephalotocin. So either both of them are going to get cleaved by trypsin or one or the other. That's pretty much what we know. So recall, it says that trypsin cleaves the bond, so the bond that's facing the carboxylic acid. So if we're going to cleave at lysine, so does argipressin have lysine? No. Does cephalotocin have lysine? No. So they both just have arginine. So if we just got the arginine here, arginine. So what we do is that trypsin, we're told it's going to cleave at this point. So it's going to cleave here. So the bond facing the carboxylic acid. So over here, arginine is going to cleave here. So this bond facing the carboxylic acid. So just before we say, okay, so the answer is going to be B, both argipressin and cephalotocin, which is the correct answer. But just make sure you double check, because we're told, because in future GAMSATs, you might overlook this and get the answer wrong. Not when proline is followed. So if this was a proline or if this was a proline, cleavage wouldn't occur. So just double check that in the exam, because you could get it wrong. But in this instance, we're lucky it's correct. So the answer is B, argipressin and cephalotocin, but not oxytocin and octopressin. So let's move on now to question 100. The game's just going to get even more fun now. Which amino acid could be isolated when chymotrypsin facilitates the cleavage of the nanopeptide argipressin? So we're going to take a look at chymotrypsin and we're going to take a look at argipressin. So we know that it cleaves tyrosine, tryptophan, phenylalanine. So let's have a look. Is there a tyrosine? Yes. Is there a phenylalanine? Yes. Is there a tryptophan? No. So we're going to cleave the carboxylic acid facing bond between the amino acids. So we're going to cleave here and we're going to cleave here. So We know, therefore, when it asks which amino acid could be isolated, well, we've got a 1, 2, so we've got a dipeptide here, but it's not an amino acid. We've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A hexapeptide here. I mean, again, it's not an amino acid. The amino acid that we have isolated, because we've broken both bonds in the peptide chain, is going to be phenylalanine. So our answer for 100 has to be phenylalanine, but no others, so A. Now we can move on to 101. So 101 states, what are the products when the cleavage of the nanopeptide cephalatosin is facilitated by the enzyme trypsin? So cephalatosin and trypsin. So that's what we're looking at. So trypsin cleaves lysine, arginine. We know that arginine, there's no lysine in this structure. So therefore we know if we're going to cleave here, we're going to be left with a 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to be left with a 4. So they call it there a tetrapeptide. And we're also going to be left with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is a pentapeptide. So we've got a 4 and a 5. So we've got a tetrapeptide and a pentapeptide. So the only answer there that satisfies this is D. So 101 has to be D, because once we cleave that bond here between arginine and ASN here, which represents asparagine, so we know we're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, a tetrapeptide and a pentapeptide, so 4 and 5. So now the final question, now this game, the climax, I am a bit disappointed because this was very fun, but the last question here, if only GAMSAT provided a lot of questions just like this, because it would have been super fun. So it says, suppose that for easy analysis, argipressin is to be broken into units no longer than tripeptides. So argipressin, that's what we're looking at, no longer than tripeptides. So that's 3 amino acids. To do this, trypsin, chymotrypsin, so we're going to use both now. And one other enzyme are needed. This other enzyme should be able to cleave peptide bonds at the carboxyl side of. So let's just see where we're going to cleave the bonds using trypsin and chymotrypsin. So argipressin, so if we look at trypsin, it's lysine, arginine. We know it's just going to be arginine. So we're going to cleave here. Chymotrypsin, we're going to cleave tyrosine and phenylalanine. So we know these two. So we're going to cleave here and here. What we're left with is a dipeptide, 1 amino acid. Over here, we're going to be left with, I guess, the amino acid with the carboxylic acid group. So that's not going to, I guess, count. But as an amino acid, technically, because it's still got the carboxylic acid group. But we're going to be left with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So a pentapeptide. So we know, therefore, oh, well, I mean, you can probably say this as well. So we're going to be left with, let's say, we're looking for the amino acid sizes, right? So this is going to be, whatever structure this is, has 2 amino acids. So it's going to be less than a tripeptide. This is going to have 1 amino acid, even though it's a carboxylic acid, it's still going to be a less than tripeptide. This is a single amino acid, less than a tripeptide. But what we have left is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is a pentapeptide. We have to reduce it to something that's less than 3 amino acids, so less than what they call it, no longer than a tripeptide. So if we take a look at the options, proline. So if we were to cleave here with proline, we're going to still be left with a 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to still be left with a tetrapeptide. So proline is incorrect. B says cysteine. So if we cross off cysteine here, we're going to have a 1, 2, 3, a tripeptide, and we're going to have a 1, 2, which is a dipeptide. So yes, cysteine is correct, and it actually is the correct answer. But let's take a look at the other options. C says glutamine. So if we cut off glutamine here, same principle, we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've still got a tetrapeptide, so glutamine is incorrect. The last one says phenylalanine. I mean, phenylalanine is useless because you've already cut that off with trypsin. So it's not going to do anything else. So that's incorrect. So that's why the answer is going to be B. So, I mean, they could have probably tricked you and said, so that's why I was a bit hesitant calling this an amino acid, because glycine of carboxylic acid technically isn't an amino acid unless you cleave it completely. The same thing here. If you've got your NH2 with the cysteine and the tyrosine, technically speaking, it's a dipeptide, but it's got an extra functional group. They were being nice. They didn't want to chuck that in there to ask you which ones classically, what is the correct, what's an amino acid, what's an actual dipeptide. But they just wanted to see if you knew how to play this fun game where you can cleave different points on the peptides or on the polypeptide to see if you can, I guess, figure out the puzzle. Now, I had fun doing this question. Hopefully you had fun doing this unit as well. But if you're still having problems and you do have any more inquiries, you can post them in the comment section below, or you can contact us directly. We'd love to help. Thanks for your time. Bye now.